Us now to speak to Bongi Gwala, sign language interpreter, and she has just become the first person in the country to do a sign language podcast. To find out more about this, as one of the only 11 interpreters in South Africa who are accredited with the South African Translation Institute, Tuli is passionate about finding creative ways of making the language and skill accessible to a wider audience. Tuli, hi. Thank you very much for joining us. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Bongi. Hello to the listeners as well.
Okay, so I see you did this year's Sona in February. You've done a lot of TV gigs and all those things. Is it frightening when you have to do when you have to do it live? Is it exciting? Is it challenging? Do you think about all sorts of things and the number of people who are watching what you're doing? What goes through your mind?
That's a fantastic question, Bongi. Absolutely. So with live TV, it's not the same as pre-recorded. There is a certain level of stress levels that you must cope with. So it is frightening, but I'm always up for the challenge. It is frightening, yes. I think it's also important to have a co-interpreter to support you and to guide you along the way. Teamwork is the best.
Yeah, because we only see you on television, but there is somebody who is also seated there who's perhaps assisting you and filling in the gaps.
Absolutely. So we call that person a co-interpreter, a feeder. And usually for me, I've been fortunate because that person for the Sona was a lady called Salma Gutierrez. She is my mentor, and she was very supportive, and she guided me all the way.
Yeah. You've got to have a certain IQ and a certain level of general knowledge, because you may not necessarily be au fait with the topic, but you've got to have some understanding of what is going on. For instance, if you're doing the Sona, you must be able to understand the politics, the economy, and all sorts of things.
Yes, absolutely, Bongi. Without being too arrogant, I think that interpreters are one of the most intelligent people around. We have a wealth of knowledge and we are open to learning a lot of information about different topics. You need to be on the ball all the time. However, if you do find yourself in a situation where you're not so sure, preparation is key. It's better to be over-prepared and to know more than to rock up at a place or a situation where you're not sure and you cause a disservice to the people that you're serving.
Yeah. And another thing, I mean, we'll come to the podcast right now. I'm just fascinated. I've never spoken to a sign language interpreter, so pardon me for a moment there.
No problem.
Because we've got so many languages in our country, official languages, and you find that, people right in the middle of the speech, they switch and they use another language. Do you have to be multilingual yourself and understand many languages, or at that time, if it's a language that you don't understand, you step down and perhaps ask your co-interpreter to come on?
Sure. So we've got different strategies that you could use. So South Africa is a beautiful country. We are a melting pot of cultures, races. I think we are a very beautiful country. So a part of it is also knowing the setting and the brief. So you need to do your homework and do your research. It's based on previous situations, but you can also have a co-interpreter to help you. So if you're not sure what may come up, your co-interpreter is there to help you. But honestly, and I'm also saying this to myself, that the more languages you know, the better. It prepares you for any situation that may come, and you can switch into any situation and you can adapt to the setting accordingly.
What interested you into taking up a sign language interpretation?
I must be honest with you, Bongi. I can't say that I knew that this was the plan. So I studied at Wits University. My major was psychology, and I had to choose a second major, and I was fascinated with SASL, South African Sign Language. I found it very fascinating. I didn't know much about it, and only to find that I was good at it. I worked very hard from the bottom up. I learned the language, and I became fluent in the language, and that's when I learned the skill of interpreting. So you first have to learn the language, be fluent in any language that you want to pursue, and then learn the skill of interpreting. So I think it's just being curious and fearing the things that you don't know. You usually fear, so you overcome the fear by learning and approaching that with more knowledge and experience.
Yeah. Talk to us now about the podcast, the sign language podcast. It becomes the first one, or you become the first person in the country to do that.
Absolutely, Bongi. It's the first of its kind. So I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time. I think because we are becoming more digital, podcasts afford us the ability and the freedom to listen to content whenever we want to, and you've got the ability to choose the content on the specific device that you want to. So I listen to a range of topics like entrepreneurship, young people doing amazing things. And it hit me later on that, wow, this is a wealth of knowledge that is not available to my immediate community that I'm so invested in? How is it that we can make podcasts content more inclusive and accessible to a wider audience? And I think that's when I had the boldness to actually approach a prominent online digital platform to propose the idea. And I was actually very fortunate that they took a risk on me and we went ahead and did it.
Wow. So you've chosen that particular subject matter, but going forward, then it needs to be sustainable. How are you going to go about it? Are you going to be approaching companies and different companies and different broadcast houses to say, look, let's put this content online because people need to engage with it beyond just the broadcast?
Absolutely. So as a visionary, Bongi, the good and the bad thing is that when you see things before other people do, people don't understand what you're trying to propose. And at first they're skeptical, they don't get it. So as a pioneer, I have to be the one who is in the forefront trying to explain and educate people about the awareness of making content accessible. One strategy is approaching absolutely content producers, podcasters, collaborating with brands and making sure that their content, a wealth of knowledge that needs to get out there, is accessible, and we use our skills to solve problems in creative ways. That is part of the strategy. I can do a lot. Yes. This
is what government must support, I tell you. So where do we find your work?
You can find me on Instagram. My handle is @Thuli_Zigalala. LinkedIn is the same, Thuli Zigalala, and all the links for my information, my videos are found in my bio.
Okay, we're going to go look it up, and perhaps if you can podcast this interview, parts of it, let's see what we can do in collaboration. I'm loving it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.